John McLeese on Bold Radio Experts from 680 CJOB. Sometimes in life, you just need some good advice. No one is an expert at absolutely everything. That's why we're proud to present the Bold Radio Experts series, where we welcome a qualified and experienced individual to offer sound advice on an aspect of running a business. Our guest today is a highly qualified legal expert. We're very pleased to be joined by Shereese Qually, partner at the Winnipeg law firm Taylor McCaffrey LLP. Shereese will bring her expertise today to the subject of Canadian anti-spam legislation and how it applies to your business. Growing a business is very hard work. That goes without saying. But as you try to market and grow your business, it's important to know what's legal when it comes to email and other electronic communications. That's where the Canadian anti-spam legislation comes into play, and that's why we're talking to Shereese. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to have you. We've heard that over the last 2 years or so, there's been this new anti-spam legislation. How is this relevant to a small business owner? Isn't it for really big corporations or for spammers?
So it's not at all just limited to big corporations or what people generally see as the spammers who fill up our inbox with junk. It's actually targeted at any size of business and any business that sends, or any person that sends what is defined as a commercial electronic message. And so that's a message that has its main purpose to promote commercial relations or relationships. And so it's any size of business who sends those CEMs, commercial electronic messages, within Canada, or any CEM received within Canada. So it's also applicable to those outside of Canada sending messages in Canada.
So there's laws with regards to sending emails, soliciting, and all of those kinds of things with potential customers. That's pretty important. You need to follow that.
You absolutely do. Any online marketing.
Small businesses often depend on marketing to help them grow. What communications are subject to these Canadian anti-spam legislations?
So it comes back to that definition of a CEM, a commercial electronic message.
Right.
It includes texts, it includes SMSs, it includes emails. It even includes, if you're looking at a platform like a social media platform like Facebook or LinkedIn, to the extent that you're sending private direct messages, those are also considered CEMs. So any of those kind of messages would be covered by this legislation.
Not necessarily if I had a Facebook site as a company or something and I'm responding publicly to a whole bunch of people. It's more the private interactions with somebody that may interact directly with our company.
That's right. Yeah. It's those direct communications.
Wow, that's pretty important. So now I'm thinking there's a lot of businesses out there that are maybe sending emails, maybe sending texts to their customers, etc. And so what would I need to do to ensure that I'm compliant?
Right. So what we suggest to clients is that what's required is a general audit of any CEMs that you send. So you have to think about in what platforms and what areas and what aspects of your business do you send these commercial electronic messages. Then you have to make sure, once you've identified those, that you comply with the various elements of the legislation. And the key ones, without getting into every detailed bit of it, is that you have to have consent. The second is that the message itself has to have certain content, including identifying information about the business and the contact information, that sort of thing. And the last is a required unsubscribe mechanism. And so you really have to go through every CEM that you send and make sure that you have those elements. Sort of breaking those down a bit more, when you look at the consent, there's a whole bunch of regulations and directives about what is adequate consent. There's what we'd assume, right? The express consent.
Yes.
Those things that we see in emails where it says, click here if you want to receive our communications.
Yes.
That's the most obvious one. But there's a whole bunch of exceptions and implied consent for current business relationships, and then there's a definition as to what's a current business relationship. So it's not an easy answer. It's a really broken down process where you look at each group of messages that you send and making sure that you fall under the various aspects of the legislation.
I would venture to guess, and Shereese Qually is our guest here on this Bold Radio Expert segment, partner at the Winnipeg law firm Taylor McCaffrey LLP. Shereese, I would venture to guess that there are a lot of companies that are not compliant out there.
Probably, especially because this was only enacted, two Julys ago. So in July 1st, 2014. And so I agree with you. I think that's probably true.
So let's talk about then the consequences. If for some reason, and is there a government body that regulates the Canadian anti-spam legislation that then polices it? How would I, if I am, quote, caught to being in violation, what are some of the consequences?
So interestingly, the governing body over this, or for the regulation of this, is the CRTC.
Oh, okay.
And the CRTC will investigate, dole out recommendations, and surprisingly, they have. We expected this to be implemented more like the privacy legislation's been implemented, kind of gently with directions rather than fines to start out with. But they haven't been shy in handing out fines, and they've doled out some $1 million fines to recognizable companies. Plenty of Fish has received fines. Rogers has received fines. Recognizable companies, not just. Not companies that you wouldn't know and you would think would be those bad spammers sort of thing.
These are reputable corporations.
Reputable corporations, exactly. And so they haven't been shy in doling out fines like that. Significantly on top of that, shortly there's going to be another remedy or enforcement mechanism in the Act that's coming into effect, and it's going to be a personal right of action where an individual who has been subject or received, if you or I have received these types of CEMs, we can sue the corporation who's done that. So it's not just a governmental fine. I can actually sue the person who's done it.
Wow. There are a lot of pieces to this, the Canadian anti-spam legislation. And certainly you want to be talking to somebody like Shereese Qually, who is a partner at the Winnipeg law firm Taylor McCaffrey LLP. And if you wanted to look up Shereese or her other legal colleagues, you can do that by going to www.tmlawyers.com. Lots to talk about. And Shereese, thanks very much for joining us today.
No problem.
It's Bold Experts.